I recommend that you would take him in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
Next speaker is the Reverend Joanne Walker, to be followed by Quincey Morris.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Chairman, member of the board. I live in the Reedy District Church, and I am here to express my support for Demetrius Tolliver, who most of us know as Mimi. She is a very strong, intelligent, a woman of integrity. And I believe that Mimi would be instrumental to this board. So I'm asking that you would select her to the Maxwell, Roselle Maxwell chair that's empty now. Amen.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Quincey Morris, to be followed by Henry Barlow.
Good evening, Chairman and the board. My name is Quincey Morris, and I am a member of the Caroline County, live in Dawn, Virginia, all of my life. And I'm here to speak on behalf of Demetrius Tolliver as well. For the last 5 years, I had the opportunity to work hand in hand with Demetrius Tolliver, and she has been a great asset to our community as well as the Caroline County as a whole. For example, she has brought change within our community by some of the programs that she has headed up in our community, such as the GED program and a tutoring program for our young people. And we have seen great results from the programs that she brought to the county and to the community. Students their grade level has increased, their reading scores as well, just through the program that she brought to us. And not only that, but she extended the program throughout the whole county, not just for the Dawn area. Demetrius Tolliver is one she's bold, she's outspoken, she is a confident person. And I believe that in your decision making, if you would just think about choosing her to fill the seat of Maxie Roselle, I believe that you would have chosen the right person. And for the record, I just want to state that, you know, I serve as a deacon at Second Mount Zion under the leadership of Marvin Fields, and Demetria is one of my I am one of her spiritual advisors. And I have seen God actually transform her by the power of the Holy Spirit to the woman that she is today. And I ask that you deeply consider her being the next board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Next speaker is Henry Barlow, to be followed by M.W. Andrews, Jr.
Chairman of the board, members of the board, I'm Henry Barlow from the Church District, and I'm here in favor of Andy Andrews. And Andy's well qualified, I think, for the position. He's well educated. He's got a graduate from University of Virginia, and I think he would be an excellent one for the board. And I thank you to him.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow.
Next speaker is M.W. Andrews, Jr., to be followed by Luther Morris.
Gentlemen of the board, good evening. Wanted to thank each and every one of you for your consideration of all of the candidates for the vacant spot as the Reedy Church District Supervisor, and I do reside in the Reedy Church District. Wanted to clarify an item which we discussed last week. I have decided that regardless of who you so choose to fill Mr. Roselle's vacated seat, that I will run for that office in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews.
Next is Luther Morris, to be followed by Moses Tillman.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. I feel like I'm back home. This is my old high school. I'm here tonight as a candidate, I guess, as a citizen because I want to be a part of our county and the policy making. As you know, I served on the board for 16 years. During those 16 years, I had the opportunity to work with the budget for 16 years, work in the planning area of the budget for 16 years, and I served as a member of the board representing the whole county. Things I proposed while I was on the board not only benefited the Church District, but the whole county of Caroline. I'm a native of Caroline. I was born here, and I've been here all of my life. Please give me your support for the next board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Next speaker is Moses Tillman, to be followed by John Bowers.
Good evening, Chair, and the rest of the board.
Good evening, Mr. Tillman.
I'm Moses Tillman of Reader Church District. On the behalf of all who signed the petition and sent the emails, I support the appointment of Luther Morris, of the member of the Board of Supervisors for the Reader Church District through December 31st, 2011. Luther born in Caroline County and has been a lifetime resident. He's educated in Caroline Public Schools, Union High School, and Virginia Union University. His public service to the Caroline County for 16 years, to the Board of Supervisors for the Reader Church District, had given the opportunity and the experience for budgetary and long-range planning process. Experience is very critical during this recession and economic slowdown, when we have to do more for less. Luther initiated the approval of the following projects as board members. He was with Caroline County High School, Caroline Community Service Center, Caroline Park and Recreation, the Dialysis Center right up in Bowling Green, Senior Citizen Center and Program. As the public servant, Luther's goal was always been to make living conditions better and improve service for all citizens. Board, I ask you, if you have anyone deep in your heart, please elect Luther Morris through December 31st, 2011. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Next speaker is John Bowers, to be followed by George Spinner.
Mr. Chairman, member of the board, I've spoken here before. My name is John Bowers. I live in the Reedy Church District. I've lived in Caroline Pines for about 5 years. Been on the board of directors there for 4 years or so. And I was joined a few months after I joined the board by Jamie Luchanan, who's seated in the back here. He worked just as a member of the board. He was later voted vice president of the board of directors. I'm here on his behalf, on the behalf of Jamie Luchanan, to urge that you consider and vote for him to fill the vacant seat on your board. I've noticed a lot of things about him the time he and I have worked together. I sit right next to him at the board meetings. He's hardworking. I think when you interviewed him, you probably got the feeling that he's a young man with a lot of energy. He does have energy. He works hard. He thinks about the decisions he makes. He's intelligent, and by that, he's got a bachelor's degree, he's got a master's degree, but he also has just a lot of common sense and knowledge in the ways of the world. He makes good, solid decisions. But the one thing I want to urge you to consider the most is his trait of integrity. And when I say integrity, I mean that in the broadest sense. Every decision he makes with the interests of our community first, foremost, solely. Everything he does, whether it's deciding what to put on the agenda, what to propose, what to vote for, he always does it with the interests of all of the property owners that live in Caroline Pines. He's been very effective. As I say, he brings a lot of energy to the job and good judgment. And I'd like to urge you very strongly to vote for him and ask for him to fill Maxie Roselle's seat as the Reedy Church Supervisor on the Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is George Spinner, to be followed by Dwayne Fields, Sr.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is George Spinner, and I live in the Reedy Church District. I'm going to do things a little differently than everybody else has. I'm going to tell you who I would not like to see on the board first.
Mr. Spinner, we would prefer if you did not do that.
Okay, then. That's fine. I will tell you that I'm here to support Mr. Jeffrey Honan for the position. I've known Mr. Honan for approximately 10 years. We attended the same church. He was very active with the youth organizations of our church. And I've also known him through his community service through the Frog Level Volunteer Fire and Rescue, where he is involved in fundraising capacity. I think Mr. Honan would be an excellent choice to fill the seat. I'm also here to support Mr. Andy Andrews. I've known Andy for about 5 years, first through his representation on the Don Sub-Area Planning Committee, and later when we served together on the Don Library Committee. I was very impressed by his willingness to assume certain tasks and compile information necessary to get that library built. And I know Mr. Andrews has been a lifelong resident of the county, and I think he would also be excellent to sit in that seat vacated by Mr. Roselle. I don't have any other comments on the other members since I don't know many of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Our last registered speaker is Dwayne Fields, Sr.
Mr. Chairman and Board, my name is Dwayne Fields, Sr. I'm a resident of the Reedy Church District. About 22 years ago, actually about 23 years ago now, I lived in New York, and my parents decided that it was best that we move back home to Caroline County, Virginia, the Don area. My parents sent me actually on a summer trip for 2 weeks to Virginia, particularly to my grandparents' house, and I stayed there, and I met a young lady there, the first one I ever met in Caroline County. I'm here tonight to support that young lady who I've found to be a great friend. She has a great mind, a great vision, great community worker, vibrant, articulate, full of integrity, analytical, and last but certainly not least, wise beyond her years. And that person is none other than Demetrius Mimi Tolliver. It's my belief that we need to continue where Mr. Roselle left off and move in a forward progression. I feel any other direction is regression. I came across an interesting quote today that said, "The greatest of all realities is that we need not be tomorrow what we are today." And I say that, Board, on behalf of myself and my family, that we're asking that you would support Demetrius Mimi Tolliver. I think she'll be a wonderful asset, not only to our community, but to Caroline County and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you for your time, and I pray that you'll do the right thing.
Thank you, Reverend Fields. We have concluded the sign-up sheet and all of the list of names, but I'm going to allow one more opportunity. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on any matter that's not a public hearing before the board today? Is there anyone else who would like to speak before the board today? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Hearing none, we will declare the public comment section closed. And it is not normally the board's process to respond to any public comments or anything like that, but I think in this instance, I feel compelled to do so. I would like to say that the board received 8 applications for the vacant Reedy Church supervisor seat. The board thought that there were 8 very good candidates. We interviewed all 8 of the candidates. We actually asked all 8 of the candidates the same questions. And we will deliberate further at the end of the meeting in executive session and make a determination of which candidate will be selected. In the unlikely event that we do not make a selection, this is our last meeting before our time period passes. If we don't make a selection, then that selection will be left up to the circuit court judge. It is my intention and desire that we would make one, so we hope to have one, but I think from all of the folks that we talk to, that whatever the person is selected will be a very worthy representative of the folks in Reedy Church. So we thank all those that came out. We thank all those that spoke. We thank all those that applied, and we do appreciate it. And as I said, we'll make that decision probably very late this evening, but you will all know first thing in the morning if you're not here. So that concludes that session. Moving to the next agenda item is agenda item number 5. And agenda item number 5 is proposed amendment to the county code for the purpose of providing a reduced sewer availability rate, a reduced sewer availability fee for certain customers. Mr. Shebel.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before you tonight for public hearing is consideration to offer a reduced rate for sewer availability fees for existing residents only. This would coincide with the water reduction rate for existing residential customers. This puts it at $3,200 as a recommended rate. Tonight we would recommend that the public hearing is held but no action be taken. We will need to make an amendment in reference to the 60-month payback that we have discussed with the Caroline Pines. The county attorney feels that that needs to be in writing to clarify that, since there is nothing currently that states that, and I believe that was the intent of the board. So we will bring that back and have an additional public hearing and move forward at that time. So tonight we'd recommend the public hearing on this proposal with no action being taken.
Okay. Well, thank you was kind of appropriate. You could have left it up there. Okay, any questions of Mr. Shebel at this time? Okay, hearing no questions. Okay. We will now open the public hearing on the proposed amendment of the county code for the purpose of providing a reduced sewer availability fee for certain customers. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. Board members at this time have any questions of Mr. Shebel?
I have one.
Mr. Shebel.
Yes, sir, Mr. Seeley.
Will the 60-month payback be included for everybody, or is it just going to be limited to Caroline Pines?
No, the code was, on the water side, the code was specific, $2,800 reduced fee for any existing residential, which would include the Caroline Pines. So with that, it was discussed to have the 60 months, so that the intent is for anyone that qualifies as an existing resident for $2,800 for water, $3,200 for sewer.
With 60-month payback?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shebel. No more questions. I believe we said that, or Mr. Shebel requested that no action was taken at this time, so we will continue that at our next board meeting. Is that your recommendation? Okay, we'll continue that at our next board meeting. Okay, moving back a step, we needed to finish the consent agenda. Mr. Seeley requested that agenda item C be pulled. So, agenda item C, give me 1 second and maybe we can close the door in the back. Thank you very much. Mr. Seeley, consent agenda item C.
Mr. Chairman, we had a lot of information, and I guess when I completed reading it, what I'm not sure about is what we're actually purchasing, and I'd just like to be clear on what we're getting, because there's a wide range of things.
The original proposals were to scope an entire sound system, audio system for the auditorium. Due to the difficulties that we've had in the system, outdated equipment, it's specifically to replace the discussion system, which is the board members' devices that they have. They'll actually have volume boxes on them and controlled in there. It'll also include the wireless mic system. Not only does our county radio system involved in narrow banding, but so are our wireless microphones. They no longer meet that, and it would also have to be upgraded. It also includes the ability to expand the sound system in the future with the AV rack, and to be able to put all the components together to be able to provide the entire sound system needed to do the board meetings, as well as the audience to hear for productions and things of the sort. We'll have to add some additional components to the sound to meet all those needs. I can specifically go over each of those items that we're purchasing.
I'm just concerned in categories, we're only talking about sound system.
Should be just the first page.
Well, now that's what I thought until I started looking at the rest of it. So,
Yeah, the rest was the original proposal.
okay, so the total cost we're looking at is,
There's three different proposals, and three proposals that include in one, it's about $41,000. In order for the county to save money, we have contracted directly with some of the vendors to have a savings on the cost of buying some of the equipment. The rest of it will be at the cost of $26,281, which includes the equipment, about the fourth page in, at the top, Bowling Green Electronics. At the very bottom of that page, you'll see $26,281. That includes that equipment there, as well as all the programming installation required, because some of the equipment that we currently have in the rack will have to be removed. That equipment will have to be reprogrammed to the new sound system so that we can use the same AV equipment as far as the touch screen for bringing down the projector and the sound and controlling all that. That's at the $26,000. Then we'll also need to purchase from the separate vendors. I believe that's all the way at the back. There's two purchase orders, one for headset experts for $7,619, and that's for a 10-person discussion system, which would expand our current stations to also include the additional spaces that will be needed, and it's sold in system quantity, so it starts at 10, goes to 50, and 10 would suit our needs. So that was the one that we're going to buy that equipment separately. And then as well as full compass systems in the amount of $11,046, which is all the wireless equipment, the antennas, the dual head handset, the body pack transmitter, the lavalier mics, and then they've given us a discount on that, but that's $11,000 on that. And again, we've shopped those around. We've shown you the prices of trying to reduce those costs as much as we can by pulling that away from the contractor. And then he's going to install all that equipment at his cost of the $26,000, includes the installing and programming of all that equipment plus the equipment that he's going to provide.
so the grand total is,
$44,946 on page 2 of the County Administrator Summary at the top.
okay, there was just, I looked at flat panels, I guess I read too much of this. So.
Well, what we did is we originally looked at the entire sound system. The board said we don't have that kind of money. Let's see if we can scale this back to just the sound system. As we dove into that and started realizing that our equipment's outdated, you can't buy most of the equipment that's in the rack now. We can't upgrade some of the things that we have. We don't have any support on that. And then with the outdated wireless system, it started adding up even on the sound system side as we were trying to cut back on that as much as we could. So there is no AV equipment involved in this at all. We're hoping that as part of the borrowing of the board that next year we'll be able to complete the phase 2, as we're going to have to call that now.
Any other questions there, Mr. Stanley?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Shebel, before you go, one, we've got a video system and all that. Are the speakers additional? I didn't see anything about additional speakers in the audience that would allow them to hear us better, or are we just going to use these?
No, they'll actually, the board members themselves will actually have speakers in each of their microphones at the base that you can control your own volume.
Oh no. Like if we were going to show a movie, or somebody was going to show a movie in here.
The floor monitors will remain, especially for theater production and things of the sort. You like having that feedback. The board will also have that, as well as 2 new speakers will be on the right and left of the stage area and going out. Our current system is strictly a speaking type system. It's not made for AV, actual music and things of the sort. So the speakers will be equipped to be able to do that, and new speakers will be put in so the audience will be able to hear.
Okay, and that's part of the Bowling Green Electronics one?
That's correct.
Is that Radio Shack?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, is item C okay?
Item C is,
All right, we'll come back and try to do them all at one time. Mr. Popowitz asked to remove item D, and during the break, Mrs. Hatcher, looking for the right adjective, cautioned me that if the board delayed more than 30 days, that we would have possible financial implications. So I just want to make Ms. Popowitz aware, you asked for 30 days, and I think the 30 days will be enough to make sure we get it done. Just want to make sure we're all aware that 30 days is really the limit we have, and I'm sure you can take care of that in that time. Yes, sir. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Next Friday will be the deadline to make any changes. We have to re-advertise for 10 days publicly due to the following Monday being a holiday. It needs to be posted by next Friday of any amendments that need to be made.
Amendments to this contract? Or?
That's correct. It needs to be posted for 10 business days, not 10 days.
Okay. Do you think you have the ability to make it happen by next Friday? That's a week from tomorrow.
That's correct.
I think we could probably work that out. I don't think it's a fundamental part of the contract as far as what would be pricing or anything like that. It's more of a language issue that I have, that I think that if we ran into problems, that we would end up getting gouged, and I don't want to see that happen to this county.
Okay, that's and that's fine, and that's why we're going to make sure we got another 30 days. County attorney, if you need to talk to Mr. Popowitz directly, we can work that out. All right, thank you very much. F, Mr. Akers, you pulled that one.
Well, F needs to come off. I've let BACO know that we are not going to pay this $1,000 fee.
Okay.
Not alone. Most counties are not paying it.
All right, so we will remove item F from any consideration altogether.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, because we didn't approve it the last time, and
No.
So there's no motion to not.
No, we'll just pull it off. H, Mr. Seeley pulled.
Yes. And I guess here's my concern with the bid. I mean, I understand the bid, and Mr. Popowitz has pointed out before that we need to have a contingency fund. The way this is being paid is the CCHP has agreed to make the payment to have the jail roof replaced. I guess my concern is if there's an overrun in this cost, do we have any agreement with CCHP? Are they in this for 10% over this, 20% over this? Because I noticed that the other bids, I mean, this bid was almost a third of the highest bid and 30% lower than the next highest bid. And if they run into any issues in that roof that aren't covered in this cost, how would we proceed? Because the roof will then be off.
That's correct. At this time, there was not any provisions for that. Each of the contractors came out and looked at that. One of the contractors said, it's a small job, I'll give you a bid, which he ended up being the high bidder. Williams Contracting came out and looked at that, spent quite a bit of time reviewing that project with us, and feel very, very confident there will be no change orders to be able to complete that work for the bid amount that they've submitted. But there is no contingency set aside to do anything, and as far as I know, the Historic Society was not discussed with them, as well as any kind of a contingency if there should be any runovers.
And I guess that's my concern, because the roof would be off at that point.
That's correct.
I guess this is a question for the county attorney. Can we do a firm fixed price contract with them that means they've got to put the roof back on for that price?
But the contract's not really with the county. Contract's with the Historical Society and these people, right?
Right. I mean, generally speaking, the contract can be, anything that the parties negotiate for, but.
Because they don't own the building, but we've done the request for proposal for the roof. Are we paying them, or is CCHP paying them?
We are. We're paying them. I was mistaken earlier. It was a contract with the county, not with the historical preservation.
And that's how I read this, and that's why I have concerns if there's an overage on this. And I don't know. I'd love to see the roof replaced. Don't get me wrong, but I just, having done that on my own projects, have always run into things that I didn't anticipate that you just end up just doing. And I don't know how this has been looked at. Did the building official look at all this with them, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
We have.
He did?
What do you think?
He did talk with Mike today about the project.
Can we?
Is
can
there any elaboration to that, or?
Mr. Whiteman?
I usually don't get invited.
With Mr. Whiteman?
Yes,
let
sir.
us give you an engraved invitation
Yes,
to
sir.
come up
Yes,
and
sir.
say hello.
Talking with Mike this morning, and Mike has gone over it twice, gone with Williams Contracting. The little bit of work's got to be done. It's small squares. I agree with the firm fixed pricing. They do it for that price, and there is no overages, and it can be done for that price.
So the county has previously, and I know counties in Virginia have engaged in firm fixed price contracts. So that would be, if we approve this, that would be the direction of the board, I'm assuming, to make sure it's a firm fixed price contract. And if there are any discrepancies, then we have recourse.
That's correct. And we can confirm that with Williams Contracting once the board has approved this to move forward, and if they're not willing to do that, then we'll bring a proposal back to the board that will do that.
Well, I'm sure the motion to approve it will say firm fixed price.
That's fine. And if the contractor's not willing to do that, we'll bring a proposal back to
Then
you
we'll have to
that
come
will do that.
Okay, that's a good position for all of us. All right, that was basically it. So we will need a motion to approve item C, a motion to approve item H as a firm fixed price contract. Is there such?
I will make a motion that item H be approved with a firm fixed price contract to Williams Construction.
Okay, and what about item C, which was the one you pulled too?
You want to do them separately?
No, I want to do them all together so I can go.
And I'll put C in that motion as well.
Okay. Motion to approve agenda items C and H. Second? Is there a second?
Mr. Popple? Nope, I'm not spending $44,000 for a new sound system.
That's why I was
Second.
doing them separate. I'm not going to second the jail.
All right.
Money needs to be spent.
All right. Mr. Seeley, would you withdraw your motion? We will do each one separately. Agenda item C is the approval for the purchase of the sound system to fix the stage issues we have here, obviously. Is that your motion now? Or is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion, since we've had complaints from the audience now for 3 years about the sound system, and it's something I know that we have to fix if we're going to have attendance at our meetings.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Akers, that consent agenda item C be approved. All those, discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Nay.
Chair detects division. Mr. Popowitz, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Seeley?
Yay.
Mr. Akers?
Yay.
And I also vote aye. So that motion passes 3-1. We will now address agenda item H, which is the award for bid of the roof repairs for the historical jail. Is there a motion for the approval of that item?
Mr. Chairman, in light that the county has no money in this, and this is an outside organization willing to pay the bill, pay through the county, and we're going to go with a firm fixed price contract to the amount submitted by the Williams Company of $4,900. I make a motion that we accept that bid as a firm fixed price with CCHP paying the county for that repair.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Yay.
Chair once again detects division of the House. Mr. Popowitz, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Vote aye.
Mr. Akers?
Nay.
And I vote aye. That motion also passes 3-1. We've completed the consent agenda, and we have moved to agenda item number 6, which is consideration of rezoning request RZ0409, Juan D. Young. Mr. Akers had asked this to be placed back on the agenda for consideration. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I have just been given a note, and it's signed by J.D., and he has indicated that please be advised that I would like to withdraw my rezoning request RZ-04-09, and it's dated today.
Today. May I have that? Okay. I guess we need to pass that to our secretary. Okay.
Motion.
Yeah, I need a motion. There probably are. I'm sure Mr. Fincham will explain the ramifications to Mr. Young, or Mr. Young is aware of those already. Okay. Is there a motion to accept the withdrawal of the rezoning request?
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
Is that you, Mr. Popowitz?
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries. Mr. Fincham, while you're here, agenda item number 7. Update on the 2010 census and impact on the redistricting process.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in your packet you have the initial figures that have been published by the Census Bureau on the 2010 census. I actually sent these to the board by email last week, so these are the same numbers that were sent to you by, or earlier this week that were sent to you by email. And I enclosed those in the packet just for your review. Caroline's population, based on the 2000 census, was 28,545 people, just over a 29% increase from 2000. You also have the population breakdowns by the current election district boundaries. To no one's surprise, Mr. Akers wins the prize for the most population increase in the last 10 years, having slightly more than doubled the population in the Madison district, which has some fairly significant implications during our redistricting process. As we redraw the district boundaries and readjust the representation population to meet the requirements, we have at a minimum about 4,100 people that we need to move out of the Madison district into the other districts. So that will be a interesting task for the Redistricting Advisory Committee. The advisory committee met for the first time Tuesday night. It was an introductory meeting. We went over these same numbers and the charges from the board to the committee. They're ready to roll up their sleeves and start working on the redistricting process as was charged by the Board of Supervisors. I would remind the board that we still have one unfilled position from the Reedy Church District that needs to be filled at some point in time. And I also want to ask the board, are there any other appointees that the board desires to make to the committee? As a courtesy, we will send copies of the meeting minutes and notices to the school board, since any action ultimately by the Board of Supervisors will affect the school board as well. And we will certainly invite them to attend the meetings and to participate in that process as staff will assist the committee. But one last time before the committee gets down to work in earnest, I just wanted to poll the board to see whether there were any other representatives that the board wanted to either appoint to the committee or to ask to serve as a staff support to the committee.
You looked at me a lot during that presentation, Mr. Fincham, and yes, I understand I did not ask Mr. Rock, who is the president of the NAACP yet. If the board would indulge it, I'll ask for that appointment pending his acceptance. And I know you'd ask for someone from the school board, so we'll probably, if the board's desire, we'll ask for a representative from the school board just to make sure we've got more folks there. Anybody else you would like us to look at?
No, sir, I was just looking at you because you were the chair.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you. So if that's okay, if we can ask for an appointment from the NAACP and the school board, anyone else that somebody thought of? Mike?
No, I don't recall what we had the last 10 years ago. I don't recall the people that, I don't mean individuals, I'm talking about the various groups that were represented on that committee, because we've gone with the committee process for at least for the last two of redistricting prior to this one. So I don't recall.
We didn't actually, as I recall, we did, I believe, have representatives from the NAACP at least back in 1990 when we went from 4 to 5. I don't recall that that was an official position in 2000. But again, justice recommends that any protected class be represented on the committee, and that was a suggestion.
I wasn't questioning whether they serve or not. My question is there any other groups that serve on the committee besides the 5? I don't recall whether 10 years ago and 20 years ago whether we had 2 people from each district or whether there's 3 people from each district.
Yes.
Right off, I don't recall.
10 years ago we had 2. 20 years ago we did have 3 at that time.
Because it was 4 districts, so we had 3 from each. That made 12. Yeah. Ironically, I recall that in 2000, Mr. Rock was a Mattapanai representative, although he wasn't officially a representative of the NAACP, but he was on there years ago. So, I mean, we don't.
And my question is, since we are looking at, or at least we've given charge to the committee to look at enlarging the board, establishing additional districts, should we look at 3 people this time around as well from each district? And again, I've said before, we don't want to get it so large that it's unmanageable, but I do believe we need to get as much representation as we can.
They did kind of fill up the room. Why don't we do 5 at largest? Could be from anywhere.
Well,
same thing.
I mean, it's the same thing, so why not just have people from everybody? Well,
Mr. Chairman, I'm just in favor of adding two more representatives, the school board and NAACP, and you've already got 10. We'll have 10 folks. That'll be 12.
Either or works with me. 12 is fine. Mr. Fincham, it's not really a voting situation where we'll have 12, but you'll break the tie, of course. So you'll be 13. 2 more, okay?
2 was fine with me.
Okay. Ms. Papa says yes. Ms. Seeley, Mr. Akers is saying yes. So we'll allow you to ask the school board for a selection, and we'll allow you to ask Mr. Rock for a selection from there if he can't serve, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Oh, you just won't go away, will you? Okay.
I'm up here now.
Yeah, you're here. You might as well keep going. Mr. Fincham is here for the first reading of Section 108 of the Code of Caroline County, to prohibit parking of trucks in residential areas. The sheriff is here. This is in response to requests from some citizens from the Belmont subdivision. I asked the sheriff to go out there and look at it, and the sheriff said he couldn't necessarily enforce it without a county ordinance. So here we are. Mr. Fincham.
Yes, sir. Mr. Thomas, there was a flurry of emails related to the parking of large trucks in the Belmont community. The sheriff's office was asked to investigate, and it was determined that they did not have any enforcement capabilities and that the county did not have an ordinance regulating truck parking. In response to that, staff was asked to review the ordinances from other localities, and in conjunction with the county attorney, we have prepared an ordinance that would address the truck parking situation. It was narrowly crafted only to apply to Belmont. There are other residential communities that staff recognizes that the board may want to incorporate some of the other communities as well. but it was narrowly written based upon the specific request that was at hand.
Board members have any questions of Mr. Fincham? Because this is